Hi people, it's me Anja, my pronouns all she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new video. I feel like I've been alluding to this a lot in the past few videos that I've been making lately, but I was really disappointed with myself when I made my 2025 reading wrap-up, because what do you mean less than 10% of the books that I read last year featured Black main characters? Like, what do you mean? That's so disappointing for myself, for my brand. Even though my brand is something that I've created, it's still something that makes me proud that people go to me for diverse book recommendations. You know what I mean? So anyway, in order to make myself feel better, I've decided to make a video about my favorite Black middle-aged books, because these books would have made me feel seen when I was younger, so I hope that they do the same for other people. So anyway, the first book on this list is called All the Blues in the Sky. This story is a middle-aged contemporary following a young Black main character who is grieving the loss of her best friend, and it's written in verse, and I think this book is so good, and it depicts grief and loss and best friendship so well. I loved the writing and the plot and the pacing and the friendships and the characters and everything. This book is so good, and it's so lyrical and so pretty and so, like, awesome. I think every part of this book was portrayed so well. I think this book is so underrated and more people should read it. Like, I think this might be Renee's middle grade debut, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Anyway, I really enjoyed it, so with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called In the Key of Us. This story is a middle-aged contemporary following two Black sapphic main characters who meet up at a music camp in a sea of white people, as one of them grapples with losing her mom and the other one grapples with pleasing her parents. And I think this book depicts grief and love and mental health so well. I've mentioned this before, but I love books set at a summer camp, and I think this book was so good. It was so musical, no pun intended, and I loved the pacing and the plot and the romance and everything. These girls have so much in common, and I love them so much, both individually as well as together. I think this book is so underrated. It has so much heart, and it's so good because I loved the writing and everything. Like, this author is so good, and I love her books so much. I've talked about her so much. I think I've read all of her books. I think that all of her books are so good and so underrated. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Root Magic. This story is a middle grade historical fiction following a pair of twin siblings in 1963 as they learn their family's magic. And first of all, I love magic that is rooted in the family and it has been taught over generations. Like, I love that. And I also loved how this book dealt with, like, real life problems such as racism, as well as having supernatural, fantastical elements too. Like, this book was so good. I loved the characters and the world building and the setting and the plot and the pacing and everything about it. This book is so fantastic and it's so good. Historical fantasy is one of my favorite subgenres of both fantasy and historical fiction. I thought everything about this book was so good and so enticing. Like, this book is so underrated. I know that I obviously say that all the time, but I think this book is so excellent and it's so great and so awesome. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called The Probability of Everything. This story is a middle grade contemporary following a young Black main character who is testing the limits of logic as an asteroid looms, but it's also about a depiction of grief and loss and love, and I love this book so much. The fact that I read it like 2.5 years ago, and I still remember how impactful it was on me, speaks volumes, because many of the books that I read 2.5 years ago, I don't remember. You know what I mean? Anyway, this book was so fantastic and it was so good. I loved the plot and the science fiction and the characters and the family dynamics and the pacing and the writing and everything. I think this might be Sarah's middle grade debut. I'm not quite sure on that, but I know that prior to this I had only read YA by her. And anyway, her writing is so good. And like her books are so underrated and they deserve so much more hype. This book is so good and it's so fantastic and I really, really enjoyed it. And if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you don't. And I'm sorry for you. Like, this book is fantastic. Anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. The last book on this list, and definitely not the least, is called The Secret Library. This story is a middle grade fantasy following a young black main character who discovers a secret library where basically the books are portals to her family history, which is so fascinating and so interesting because, like I mentioned earlier, I love books that have a generational magic to them, especially focusing on marginalized characters where historically their heritage and their past and their family history has been erased. If that makes any sense, I thought this book was so good and so fantastic. I loved the world building and the setting and the family dynamics and the plot and the pacing and the writing and the characters and everything. This book is so good and it's so fantastic and it's so awesome and it was so thrilling and riveting and everything. Like, I love books like this that really focus on libraries and history and family history and stories and magic and everything. Like, this book is so underrated and it's so good. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. So in conclusion, happy Black History Month. I hope this video helps diversify your bookshelf. I think that books that feature Black main characters are so incredibly important, especially for Black people, but also for non-Black people as well. I think that diverse representation is so important because it normalizes experiences that are normal. You know what I mean? Anyway, I digress, and I feel like sometimes when I talk about the importance of representation, I'm beating a dead horse or I'm talking in circles or something like that. But anyway, in conclusion, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the pink heart emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!